Alright, so today I'm going to walk through step by step how I painted my front door. This is just my way of doing it. There's a lot of different ways. I see a lot of guys paint it in place. I personally like to take it off the hinges and paint it laying down. I think it leaves a lot better finish, and you can actually paint all the spots that are going to be visible when you open it. So with as cold as it was on this day, one of the only spots I could paint this was in this room in my basement that I'm redoing, and I haven't done the carpet yet, so I only have to protect the walls. So I'm just going to drape some plastic down and set up a couple sawhorses and get the door set up and start taking off the hardware. So obviously the lock set and the hinges are going to come off. One thing I decided to do personally was to leave the sweep on the bottom. I know a lot of guys would say to take it off, but the color on the door is going to be red, and the white little piece on the bottom just I didn't want it to draw your eye, and I decided it's not a big deal. I didn't paint the rubber gasket on the bottom that makes the seal, so to me it's not a big deal. I know maybe some guys would say to take it off, but I didn't want it to draw your eye, and I'd go for the look more than anything else on this. So I'm going to take a medium grit sanding pad and just scratch all the surfaces and get something to adhere to. No matter what, this door is already primed, but any surface, whether it's first coat, second coat, anything, I'm going to sand. It just gives your next coat something to adhere to, and I think it gives a better grab. And now I'm going to tape off all the edges that I don't want to be painted. And basically, my rule of thumb is when I open the door, whatever I can see, that's what I'm going to paint. And so for this one, the hinge side and obviously the outside of the door is what I'm going to paint on this, and everything else I'm going to tape off. For this little glass section, since it's a weird shape, I'm going to just make the tape long and make sure it's seated into the corners, and then with my knife I'll actually go around and make the cut to give me the line I want. So I'm going to take some tack cloth and just wipe down all the surfaces. This helps really get all the grime and extra things that a rag or whatever wouldn't get off, and it really is an important step to make sure that the surface is clean. So the color I'm going with is Heartthrob in Latitude. Just the Sherwin-Williams rep that I work with at the main store that I go to, she recommended it. That's the only reason I went with Latitude specifically. I didn't really have a preference, and I trust her judgment on things like that. She's helped with a lot of things. I'm not a professional painter, so a lot of times I'll go to somebody like that to ask questions, and that's kind of how I decided on the Latitude and the color and things like that. So now I'm ready to spray, and on this coat, I'm not going to go super heavy. I'm going to move a little quicker than I will on the second coat, but I'm going to make sure my overlap is correct, and I always go 50% overlap, or try to at least. You know, obviously I'm not perfect, but I'm just going to go from one side, and then on my next coat, I'll go from the other side to make sure I get in all the cracks and crevices and everything is coated correctly. So this is what we're looking like after the first coat, so I'm going to let that dry down and come back and get ready for the second coat. With this product here, I'm going to paint the hinges. They were rusted enough, and I just scratched them up a little bit. I haven't ever actually done this before, so we'll see how long it lasts, but they were but rusted enough to where I wanted to revive them a little bit and make them look better. So I'm just going to give them a couple coats with this, and this is what I like to use on metal products that are a little rusted, and it's worked well in the past. So again, I'm going to rough up the surface between coats here and just give it a little something to adhere to for this next coat, and we'll get on to the spraying. So like I said before, I'm going to come from the other side now in case I missed any of these spots when I sprayed from the other direction. Now I can get those from this direction, and I'll just lay down my coats. And I'm going a little bit slower this time and giving it a little bit of a heavier coat now that I actually have a base coat down and something to adhere to. I'm going to cross-hatch this as well. Since I'm only doing 2 coats, I want to make sure I really get it and the coverage is the way I want it, and I think it just gives a better finish. So now that it's all dried up, I'm just going to pull all the tape and get this ready to hang. So this is what it looks like all painted up and dried. There are a couple dings in the doors. I debated whether fixing them or not, but this is a rental property. They're going to happen again. I just left it, but I'm liking the way the finish on the paint job has come out so far. So I'm going to get the hinges on and get this thing wrapped up. The last thing to do here is get the lock set on and get it all closed up. So this is the door all finished up. I'm liking the color. It's something that I usually wouldn't do. I'm more of a neutral or darker color, kind of guy. But on this one, I wanted to go something brighter. I've seen it before, and I've liked the way it looked. So I like the way this turned out. Obviously, I think the way I did it in the process is good, and the finish on the paint job came out almost flawless.